This month we have so many announcements to cover due to the two big events, Microsoft Ignite and Google Next. Covering all the major announcements in 10 minutes will be a struggle, but I'll do my best as I catch you up on the massive list that you probably don't have time for. Hey there, I'm Matt Carolan and welcome to this month's Puck Online, where we aim to bring you the hot topics for the last month in the public cloud space. Today I'm here in Austin, Texas, Formula One race this weekend, and also I'm hanging out here at the new SHI office, which was recently finished during COVID, so making the best of the weather with the sunrise in the background. And in Microsoft Azure news, so in the middle of October, Microsoft held their annual Ignite event in Seattle, which featured keynote speakers Satya Nadella and Scott Guthrie. The purpose of Ignite each year is for Microsoft to communicate and educate on the products upcoming and existing. Lots of announcements came out at the event. I focused mostly on those that apply to Azure in some shape or another. So let's get into it briefly. Microsoft used Ignite to talk about how Azure is a developer's cloud with cloud-native built applications that reach from GitHub to Visual Studio and out onto Azure the platform. Azure provides the self-service developers need in order to test in isolation, removing the wait for available resources to test on. Earlier this year at the Microsoft Build conference, Microsoft announced DevBox, and this also played into the story of having a nicely controlled environment for developers, especially in regulated industries. Azure Arc, Microsoft's multi-cloud managed solution, now has a single sign-on capability via Azure Active Directory that permits the management of all Azure resources and their SQL environments within the portal. Also, Azure Arc has improvements that let Microsoft Defender access and secure SQL Server estates across multi-cloud and hybrid environments. The Azure Automate feature automates best practice baseline settings for organizations that use Windows Server 2022, Azure Data Center Edition, or Azure Stack HCI. It will monitor those settings too. Azure Auto Manage now works with Azure Virtual Machines and Azure Arc. In that respect, Azure Auto Manage now applies settings to use log analytics workspaces, Azure Tags, support for Windows 10 VMs, and enables Microsoft's anti-malware service. Sick of using RDP or PowerShell to make quick changes to your Windows OS? Well, now Windows Admin Center is now part of the Azure portal, which will allow you to manage the Windows Server operating system as well as files inside the Azure VM. You can access a long list of things such as events, files, file shares, firewalls, installed apps, local users, groups, processes, registries, scheduled tasks, services, updates, and more. This will definitely be handy for a lot of admins out there. Besides Windows Admin Center, Azure Portal can now be used to carry out server bus operations, and if you use Nutanix, organizations can now access Nutanix cloud clusters on Azure, which lets you use your existing Nutanix skills and tools in Azure. Azure Monitor now has a predictive auto-scale capability for Azure Virtual Machine scale sets that's based on the CPU load and network demand. There's also a basic logs and data archive, capabilities that promise to reduce log ingestion costs by 1/5, plus archiving for up to 7 years. The Azure Monitor agent used to collect the data telemetry now supports Windows 10 and Windows 11 devices, and Microsoft has released a migration tool to move from legacy log analytics agent. And Microsoft is planning to release to GA its new savings plan for Azure Compute Services later in October. The savings will be based on your commit to spend a fixed hourly amount for 1 or 3 years. The Azure Machine Learning Service now supports natural language processing and image tasks. It has an automated code generation capability for tabular images and text data too. A responsible AI dashboard for debugging machine learning models will be reaching GA soon as well. Azure Data Explorer, Microsoft's big data analytics solution, has access to new data types for data ingestion process that use for setting up queries. The following data types are now supported: Amazon Simple Storage S3, Azure Event Grid, Azure Cosmos DB via the new Azure Synapse Link connector to stream data from Cosmos DB, and OpenTelemetry metrics, logs, and traces. And Microsoft Entra, which is a product family name for permissions management, verified ID, and Azure Active Directory services, now has a conditional access authentication context feature that lets organizations set policies on the action users can take in applications. Now, there were many other announcements not covered here, including a long list of Power Automate, Teams, and Microsoft 365 new features and improvements. Check out the link in the details section of this video to Microsoft's complete book of announcements from the event. In Google news, Google held their big annual event, Google Next, online from October 11th to the 13th. There was a bit of uncertainty for months out from the event if it would be an in-person or not. This year they decided to go with it mostly being online, but expect next year to be back to business as usual, as they probably will look at doing it in California as usual and New York. Lots of announcements to get through, so let's cover as many as we can. Looker and Data Studios is being combined to create Looker Studio. There is also a Pro version, which is an enterprise BI suite to provide organizations support and key governance capabilities. Vertex AI Vision now makes powerful computer vision and image recognition AI more accessible to data practitioners and reduces the time to create computer vision applications from days to minutes at 1/10 the cost of current offerings. Software Delivery Shield includes capabilities across 5 different areas to address security concerns, along with the software supply chain, application development software, supply, CI/CD, production environments, and policies. It also allows for incremental adoption path, so organizations can tailor the solutions to their specific needs, choosing the preferred tools to start with based on their existing environment and security priorities. Looking at 7 key workloads, Google are optimizing AI, high-performance compute, streaming, sovereign, traditional, cloud-first, and Web3. These new features will augment your workloads, including the C3 machine series powered by the 4th generation Intel Xeon scalable processors and Google's custom Intel infrastructure processing unit. The company is also delivering AI-optimized infrastructure with the general availability of the TPU version 4. Google is launching in 5 new countries. They are Austria, Greece, Norway, South Africa, and Sweden. Google said the 5 new cloud regions announced at Google Next and another 4 announced earlier this year will contribute to a cumulative $40 billion US to the GDP by 2030 and support the creation of more than 300,000 jobs by that year. JewelRun, which was announced at Next, is a mainframe modernization solution announced to help remove the most common roadblocks from migrating 20-plus-year-old mainframes into the cloud. It allows clients to keep running their mainframes while it's running in GCP in parallel, giving clients confidence before cutting over to GCP only, that it will work as expected and pass audits and other tests. And Google will rely on cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase to let some customers pay for their cloud services with cryptocurrencies in early 2023, while Coinbase said it would draw on Google's cloud infrastructure. Currently, Coinbase generates most of its revenue from retail transactions, but it says now it plans to move its data-related applications to Google from AWS where it is today. The Google platform will initially accept cryptocurrency payments from only a handful of customers in the Web3 world, starting in early next year. Over time, Google will allow more customers to make payments with cryptocurrencies via Coinbase's Commerce, which currently supports 10 cryptocurrencies. Chronicle Security Operations, a modern cloud-born software suite that better enables cybersecurity teams to detect, investigate, and respond to threats with the speed, scale, and intelligence of Google. Google also announced that it'll make Google Cloud Carbon Footprint generally available at no cost for every customer in the Cloud Console. In addition, eco-friendly routing will launch soon in Google Maps platform for developers to help ride-sharing and delivery companies enable eco-friendly routes to their driver applications. In AWS news, Amazon Athena has upgraded its SQL query engine to include the latest features from Trino open source project. Athena Engine version 3 includes over 50 new SQL functions, 30 new features, and more than 90 query performance improvements. Athena is also introducing a continuous integration approach to open source software management that will improve currency with Trino and Presto projects so that you get faster access to community improvements integrated and tuned with the Athena engine. AWS has released some templates that will help you track, be alerted, and maintain your cloud spend. You can already do everything that the templates do. However, this makes it easier, quicker, and may give you some ideas that you hadn't even previously thought of to help you keep costs under control. And you now have the option to automatically set up connectivity between the EC2 instances and an Amazon RDS or Amazon Aurora database. Once you have provisioned EC2 instances, you can select an RDS database instance or cluster, and with a single click complete the connectivity configurations to allow traffic from the EC2 instance to the RDS. And AWS announced that SQL message queries will now be encrypted at rest by default. Now this only applies to newly created queries. The encryption keys will be managed by the SQS service by default, but if you want to manage your own keys, you can do so using the AWS Key Management Service. Amazon Detective automatically groups related guard duty findings to help security analysts reduce triage time and create a more comprehensive security investigation. Detective uses machine learning to group related guard duty findings that in isolation may be ignored but together show a life cycle of an attack, which can help security analysts identify advanced threats more easily. And the all-new AWS Directory Services for Microsoft AD now runs on Windows Server 2019. If you have existing directories, you can simply update with just a few clicks or via the API. With this feature, you can initiate updates for existing directories when it's most convenient, avoiding peak business hours, for example. However, if you don't get to it, the update in March 2023 will be automatically done by AWS. You can now run Ubuntu Desktop on AWS Workspaces. As well, there is something new called Workspaces Core. What Core allows you to do is manage your desktop VDIs in Workspaces with other management tools. So if you already have invested in a VDI management solution, then this strips down to Core version to save you about 30% in running costs, and you can make use of the management tools you've already invested in. I'm interested to see how this plays out with clients out there in that sort of hybrid situation where they're using Citrix or Horizons or something like that in VDI with AWS's Workspaces. For them, this would be a great thing, having a single management tool looking after both VDI environments. AWS has launched a new feature that provides an option to define flow handling behavior for AWS Gateway Load Balancer. Using this option, you can now rebalance existing flows to healthy targets when the target fails or is deregistered. This helps reduce failover time when a target becomes unhealthy, and also allows you to gracefully patch or upgrade the appliances during a maintenance window. AWS Glue now offers integration with Git, the widely used open source version control system. AWS Glue is a serverless data integration service that uses reusable jobs to perform extract, transform, and load tasks on a dataset of nearly any scale. With this feature, you can use GitHub and AWS Code Commit to maintain a history of changes to their AWS Glue jobs and apply existing DevOps practices to develop them. Before now, you needed to set up your own integrations with your code versioning systems and build tooling to move jobs from the development environments to the production environments. So in wrap up, make sure you check out publiccloud.ninja for links to all our podcasts, and online meetups and events. And click that like and subscribe button so that you get notified each month when we release a new episode. Our next episode will be in November. Till then, stay safe and keep challenging yourself.